Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Keeping It Real Caregiving, our Sunday coffee chat and support hour. I'm Julia Yarbo. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. I know it's early for those of you here on the West Coast, 8:30 Pacific time, 10:30 Central time, 11:30 Eastern. So thank you so much for joining us. Hope you've grabbed your cup of coffee and are ready to dive into this month's Keeping It Real Caregiving Sunday coffee chat and support hour this morning in honor of Women's History Month. That's what I'm calling this, our edition. We're talking about the intersection of caregiving and also how we take care of our finances and making sure that as family caregivers, we're not afraid to reach out and ask for help and find support in our friends, our family, our colleagues. So I'm really excited to invite two amazing women to the show this morning. And as I navigate through StreamYard, bear with me as we make this all happen. I am happy to add and welcome to the show our amazing panel this morning.
Good
Everybody
morning.
out there in internet land, welcome Kandis Draw to the show this morning.
Good
She
morning.
is a national Illinois advocate with Ovarian Cancer Research Alliance. Kandis, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you, Julia, for having me. Good morning.
And also with us this morning, we have Charlene Rhinehart. She is a powerhouse certified public accountant. She is a fellow bulletin writer, and her focus is making sure that people understand the power of finances and why it is so crucial that we understand what's happening in our wallets and our pocketbooks and building out financial literacy and financial wealth. Charlene, good morning, and thank you so much for joining.
Good morning, Julia. Thanks for having me.
Well, I am super excited that both of you are here. And for our audience members that are joining, Laura and Deborah, I see you guys are both in so far. So thanks for joining us. Both of these ladies are based in the Chicago area. I'm here in Northern California, and this is the power of what we can do on social media and the internet. We are all connecting from different parts of the country, and these two women who devote so much of their time to helping others are in the same community. So I'm really hopeful that we'll be able to make some good connections happen. So Rosetta, welcome in this morning. She says hello, everybody. So I wanted to make sure to say that. So let's get started a little bit. Kandis, tell us a little bit about your work, what you do, and why it's so crucial in of family caregiving.
So, good morning again, everyone. Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you out there. I am a national advocate for the Ovarian Cancer Research Alliance, which they are advocates from all over the country that advocate for health disparities and other things when it comes to ovarian cancer. I got into advocacy and working for caregiving.com because I lost my mother to cancer in 2014. She died of ovarian cancer. And I was her caregiver along with my two younger siblings. And so I just decided to start writing about the challenges of caregiving and how you're not paid for your work, how there are a lot of health disparities that go along with it, some things that families do face. I'm enough for the future. I've written two posts, one about National Black Family Cancer Awareness Week, which is a new initiative that the FDA Center of Oncology Excellence has rolled out that is falls right in the month of June, right during Juneteenth, which is educating Black families to talk more about more about cancer, how we can fight cancer, different ways, and more talking about your genetic history and what runs in your family, and just a week dedicated to encouraging more Black people to take their health and wellness more seriously. Also for caregiving.com, I wrote a post about compound caregiving. And that post was about how you can prepare for taking care of your loved ones, often how it takes a lot of time out of you, how oftentimes you can't work on a regular basis. So that's how my caregiving journey started. It was really seeing some of the barriers that I faced while caregiving and then writing about it and then reaching out to others.
And Kandis, I think it's so just on point, because many of us who move into this space of wanting to help others, it's because we've been through it. And for those of you who have been following me on Keeping It Real Caregiving and who have worked with me in the past, you know that I was an elderly mother for many years who passed in 2020. And it's so true. We see all of these gaps and places where we want to do the right things for our loved ones, and then we discover that, you know, we're overwhelmed. And one of the other reasons that I brought these two ladies together this morning is a big area where we tend to then find roadblocks and being overwhelmed is figuring out, how are we going to handle paying for this care? And what about our own work? And what about our own finances? And so, Charlene, I'd like to invite you to hop in, introduce yourself, let everybody know who you are, what you do, and yeah, take it away.
Hi, everybody. I'm Charlene Rhinehart. I am a certified public accountant and founder of Chicago Southsider. It's a newsletter bulletin located on Facebook's platform that shares the best of Chicago Southside. And also, I share hidden money opportunities for everyone, because I know finances is important in every stage of your journey. So I try to provide resources for that. And when it comes to healthcare, healthcare is expensive. And guess what? Those costs are not going down. Healthcare is increasing, and we're in an environment where inflation is impacting the cost of everything. So it's so important to revisit our finances and find ways we can allocate our money or get discounts or get tax savings so that financial struggles won't get in the way of us accessing affordable healthcare for ourselves and for our families, since right now a lot of people are taking care of other people. So now you need to manage family finances, and that looks different from managing individual finances. So I can't wait to dive into that, because it's such a needed conversation right now.
Yeah, and I think, as again, everybody, I'm navigating this StreamYard platform, so bear with me if you see your shots changing around. There we go. I wanted this image. And so, ladies, when we think about this, and Kandis and Charlene, now either we can just kind of jump in when we need to. Caring for your mom, obviously, she was your first priority. At what point along your caregiving journey did you start to realize, uh-oh, I'm doing all this, but I absolutely must reach out to other people around me to make sure I can navigate this? And was there a particular moment when you started to see those disparities in the care, in the services, in how you were able to juggle everything?
So, well, that's a loaded question, but
Yeah,
absolutely.
I
But
know it
the
is.
first part of the first part of that is I think when you're wrapped up in a caregiving journey, your main focus is not really reaching out to anyone. You're really just trying to keep your head above water, whatever that looks like. That can be just trying to manage your workday, manage your day-to-day interactions, and managing the care of your loved one. I was very, very lucky that I had a good support system around me to help me. Even like in some days where I just felt like I couldn't keep going, I had some really, really good friends, some really, really good supportive people in my life to help me and to encourage me through this process. There was a time where my mother and I spent a week at Cancer Treatment Centers of America, and I began to see how everybody didn't have that support system. Everybody didn't have someone that was really there for them or listening to them or able to even point them in the right direction. And I saw how crucial and vitally important that is. One of the things that caregivers struggle with is even reaching out. You don't want to feel like a burden. You don't want to feel like you're overloading someone. So you tend to not even do that. You tend to just keep a lot to yourself. And I realized the power of support groups, the power of togetherness, how, I wrote about this on a blog post I did for Ignite Hope Candles, where, you heal in community. To know that someone has been through what you've been through, to know that there are other people who have struggled through this and, made it out on the other side. Often it just means taking some time for yourself, even if it's 30 minutes a day, even if it's 20 minutes a day, whether it's, watching something funny or, just taking care of some business that you need to, those are important elements when it comes to caregiving. I know people who hadn't worked or people who weren't working who, were struggling financially, which is why it's so important for family caregivers to be paid.
Yeah, and I want to really drive home that point that, and I share this with everybody. Along my journey, early on, I had a good friend who said to me, "Julia, you are probably going to be taking care of your mom. You need to get ready." And I kept putting, talk to the hand, talk to the hand. I don't want to deal with it. And then finally, I realized I needed to do this. And that person had also encouraged me to take some steps on the financial side. And thank goodness I paid attention and I at least reached out. And I thought about insurance plans and ways of helping my mother, but I didn't really think too much about what it would look like for me down the line. And, we're all, women in the prime of our lives. So, Charlene, are there steps? What would you say would be the top 2 or 3 things that, let's say, women and men who are, say, 35 to 40, right? Where maybe they're not quite yet into caregiving, but it may be around the corner soon. What are some of the things that we can start to think about so that we're also planning to take care of our loved one, but making sure that we're taking care of ourselves?
Such a great question, because it revolves around the financial life cycle of our families, right? So there are individual finances that we need to focus on, but there are family finances. So let's focus on these individual finances first, right? Let's get control of how we are allocating our money now. Do you know how much income you have coming in? Do you know how much you have going out? Look at your income and expenses, because this is your foundation to determine your money flow. You need to know this in order to answer certain other questions and determine what type of insurance plans or other extra help you may need. So look at your income. If you do not know how much you bring in every month, I encourage you, add up everything that you have. And then those expenses, itemize those expenses. Go down the list. What are those expenses? And if you're not saving money, that could put you in a big financial rut later. So look at your income and expenses. What can you knock off? Can you knock off any subscriptions? Can you knock off any snack food costs, anything that you don't need, right? And then if you can't knock off any expenses, now look at ways you can increase your income, right? Can you get a side gig before you have to take control of your family member situation, right? Or can you get an increase in your pay at work, right? There are so many ways that you can increase your finances, increase your income, or decrease your expenses. But those are the numbers that we want to start with. Then number 2, when you're looking at that, now identify ways that you can start taking advantage of workplace savings. You want to start putting as much money in your retirement account now as possible, because when you're caring for somebody else, you may not have that much flexibility. You also want to look at your tax advantaged health plans like an FSA. Do you get a flexible savings account or an HSA, health savings account? A health savings account can be very helpful because the money rolls over every year, and you can take out money out of your health savings account to pay for qualified expenses for you, your spouse, or any qualified dependents that you may have. So that health savings account, the money in there, it stacks up for any qualified medical expenses that may come from you. So those are the accounts that you should be looking at now. But then think about long-term planning. Long-term, you may not be able to work for a full-time job if you are caring for somebody else, right? So how can you stash away money, or how can you take advantage of remote opportunities that allow you to work at home, right? You want to look at those income opportunities that will give you more flexibility to be able to take care of aging parents, right? So right now, if you are not taking care of aging parents, look at your income, look at ways you can diversify your income, look at ways you can start getting passive income, right? Passive income is when you get money without even working, so that you can have more time to spend and care for your loved ones, because you do not want your finances to get in the way of what you're doing. Because the next step is family finances. And then that's when you'll be looking at insurance plans, long-term care insurance, Medicare. You're going to have to understand all that. So first things first, take care of your finances so that you can have the capacity to manage your family finances.
And that's a great point, ladies. I'm going to bring both of you back up. I realized that on our on these multiple cameras, I should always give everybody a heads up if we're popping everybody onto the camera. And Charlene, you make an excellent point about the idea of starting to put things in place in advance. And Kandis, I want you to pop in here in a second to this point. I was lucky that I had an employer who was very flexible with me, and I lived very close, that when the caregiving duties were really intense, they understood that sometimes I might need to leave early, or, last minute call outs or something like that. And I started thinking, what other opportunities could I create where I could work from home? And it's not always easy, but I do encourage everybody to start thinking about that early. And Kandis, before we hop into, I want to hear your thoughts on that. We've got a couple of questions coming into the chat box. And so again, thank you to everybody who's here on the call this morning. I do see you. Let me just give a quick shout out so that I'm paying attention to you. I'm going to start from the very top here. Good morning, Laura and Deborah and Rosetta, Adriana, Dion. Thanks for hopping in. Joanna, she's joining us from Pennsylvania. Mindy, hi, Debbie. Thank you and good morning. Adriana in South Florida. Maybe we worked together in the past. Joanna, I'll show her comment real quick. She says, this is a double full-time job for me. I've been taking care of my challenged brother for 30 plus years on dialysis and fighting cancer. Every year gets a little bit harder. And Joanne, our thoughts and positive energy go out for you. And we're going to loop back to that because there's some items on the financial side that would come into play for you. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. I'm glad that we have some men on board this morning. Jenny Marie, thank you for hopping in. Mue Say, thank you for being. But one of the questions that I wanted to show, how do you manage when after half your life you've been a person's caretaker? How do you get back to somewhat of normalcy? And I think that's big because I know I am still going through that. Kandis, you may be going through that as well. And then on the financial side, there are some things that you need to think about, so that we've been in that role for so long. And then all of a sudden we're like, well, what about me? The question to you, Kandis, is what advice would you have for others who are on that sort of post caregiving side? Maybe some items that helped you move forward. And Charlene, I want you to think about this one, that once you are back focused on you, I know I've learned so many things of where there are gaps that have made me realize, oh, I need to really pay attention to how much money I have down the line. So think on that one for a moment, Charlene and Kandis. Any insight for others who are now on this post side of caregiving?
Thank you, Joanne, for your question. So I think that every family caregiver, if you've taken care of someone for an extended amount of time, where the focus has been specifically just on them, you really don't have a sense of normalcy. You really get back to that once. Are there some things that you want to do? Do you want to go back to school? Is there a hobby that you want to take up? Do you have any aspirations that you may have wanted for yourself that you were not able to do because you were caring for someone? Those are some of the things that you can start getting back to. I know for myself, I did everything from join a gym to travel to start seeing about how when I was ready, like how I could advocate for other people, just getting back into the swing of things. But it was a slow process. Forgiving myself is another big one when you're trying to seek normalcy, forgiving yourself for being so hard on yourself. Caregivers are very hard on themselves, and it's not intentional. It's just something that happens because there's so many demands on you. So that getting back into the swing of things is really just saying, what makes you happy? What are some of the things that you really, really want to do? And, just start slowly getting back into that. That is really how and that can take a lot of time. This is not something that's a week or two, or, oh, I'm going to feel normal within a couple of weeks. No, this is a process. When you deal with someone and you care for someone for a long period of time, it can take time for you to start feeling normal again. But take some time out each and every day, figuring out what makes me happy, going towards that, and just building a life for yourself at this point.
Yeah, those are all such great points. And, I love that you took time for yourself afterwards. I think one of the things I did was I just dived right into trying to do advocacy work and writing and sharing my stories, because I just thought nobody should have to go through this, and it's so hard. And ladies, as we were just starting, and many of you out there joining us, unfortunately, we tend not to think about this until we're in it, because it's a tough topic. Who wants to think about, oh, I've got to take care of mom or dad or aunt or uncle or maybe a spouse, when we're in our 40s? We don't want to think about it. Sadly, if we don't do some planning ahead, we find ourselves in it, and then it's a crisis and we don't know what to do. And so that's why I'm just, I'm out there banging the drum, I'm the girl who cries wolf all the time. I'm like, please pay attention. If any of you saw that movie, Don't Look Up, that's what I feel like. I'm like, please pay attention to this. And to that point of Charlene, we talked about, we take time for ourselves, but now we need to think about our finances. And we actually have a question or a comment. I'll share the comment first, and then the question. Adriana, we're there with you. You have our support. She says, I'm 37 and caring for my widowed mom and brother with a mental health disability. I burned myself out working and had to stop teaching. Who do I ask for help? Well, first of all, congratulations for being here this morning and taking the time out of your morning, because what we're doing right now, I know we're not together and we're all virtual, but just telling people your situation is part of that step of asking for help, to know that you're not alone. Jump into the chat and tell me which state and which city you're in. And then afterwards I can look and maybe point you to some resources. But I will tell anybody who's on this call, the first place that I would encourage you to start is with your local agency on aging. And we can talk more about that, and I can put that in a post, but start there. And then also I wanted to share this question or comment. We went through our life savings, $300,000 in 1.5 years, just paying for what Medicare didn't cover. I'm 10 years in now and still learning how to financially survive. I'm 53 and trying to care for my mom, spending almost $4,000 a month on mom's care and figuring out how to prep for when I retire. Christina, thank you for being here this morning. You are in a situation that many others find themselves, because one of the things that I want all of you this morning to take away and share with everybody else that is that quite often people hear Medicare and they tend to think, oh, when I hit 65 and I get Medicare, everything's paid for. It is not. Personal care with Medicare is not covered. Medicare handles rehabilitation after a hospital. It pays for hospital equipment sometimes. It pays for items that are on the back end, but it does not pay for any in-home help or care that you may need. And that's where those finances pile in. Charlene, for somebody who is looking at their savings dwindle, or they're looking at this going, uh-oh, I have X amount, but I may need X plus 5. Any short-term things that they can start to think about even now? Is there someplace they should put savings to they try to build on their savings, or should they just use what they have and hope that it lasts? Any insight?
Yes, that's a great question. And this is something that I typically talk about, because I talk a lot about investing. Why? Because savings doesn't last. Savings is not the same as investing, right? You have this lump sum of money. You could have $1 million, but guess what? That $1 million could be gone instantly if you had a health problem, or a family member had a health problem that required that money, right? So you need your money to work for you. Savings won't last, right? Many people will worry about how long their savings will last in retirement. It will only last for a certain period of time, depending on how much you are pulling out of your savings. So that means we have to invest. And there are many different ways to invest, right? You just don't have to invest in the stock market. You can invest in yourself, make valuable investments in yourself. So previously, I was talking about how you can find another stream of income doing what you do now, right? Like you can provide advice to others about caregiving, and that's another stream of income that probably won't take additional time out of your schedule. So look at your unique situation and see, okay, how can I use where I'm at to provide something of value to somebody else? If I can't control my expenses right now, right? My expenses are set because I have to take care of my health care. Well, now I need to focus on the income piece. And what's the smartest, most efficient way for me to bring in more income where I'm at? Now that you're bringing income, guess what? You have to turn that paycheck into passive income. That's the next level of secret. How do I make sure this income keeps flowing in even if I'm not working, right? And that's why leveraging accounts like an HSA, a health savings account, if you have a high deductible health plan, you can start tucking away money in your health savings account, letting that money build, and you may be eligible to invest that money into various assets that allow you to grow, right? So that's one thing, but the main thing is to find out how to turn your paycheck into passive income. And you also want to start thinking about your insurance plans and savings plans that you can take advantage of, like AARP. A lot of people think you have to be 50 to join AARP. No, you don't. I am a member of AARP, and they have a great platform where you can attend events and do these very certain things towards your health. So leverage all of those savings opportunities as well, but be creative right now. Be creative. Use where you are to start making money right where you are, because a lot of people are doing that. Once you make that money, don't let that money just go out your pocket. Turn that money into passive income. And for me, I focus on dividend investing. That's what my whole other platform is about, focusing on how to get an extra stream of income from the money that you have now, because you want your money to continuously last. That's the main question. How do I make my money last? You have to be able to go beyond savings.
No, excellent points. And I think that what happens is we tend to, we're so focused as caregivers, from day to day. And Kandis, I know you know what this feels like, and many of you here this morning. It's hard because there are only so many hours in a day. There's only so much of us to go around. And in fact, one of the other comments, and I'm not going to read all of them, but many of you have expressed, you say, how do you find time to do all of this when you're in the middle of it? How do you find time to recharge? How do you find time to think about your finances? One of the approaches that I took, now granted, I'm not saying that there were days when I was having major meltdowns. And Kandis, if you had any of those,
I
I just found myself thinking, how am I going to survive through this? And then you feel bad because it's your loved one and you want to take care of them. But one of the things that I did, and I would encourage all of you to, it's almost as if you find little compartments in your head and you go there when you need to, right? So when mom was taking a nap, just like people who have infants at home, when mom would nap, that's when I would try to get things handled. I would get up maybe even an hour earlier on the weekends, knowing that she would be up at X time. If I gave myself 1 hour to just have my cup of coffee, go through my paperwork, putz around online, whatever that was. And finding that time itself is tricky. We're not saying, oh, just go have lunch with the girls or the guys and go golfing, because the reality is you're not going to have time to do that. What we do encourage, though, is to use whatever little pockets of time you have. Instead of maybe watching television for an hour, use that hour, as Kandis and Charlene said, to think about, okay, I have 1 hour. How can I use that hour to enhance myself? Or how can I use that hour to do a little research on how to expand where I can have income coming in? And I want to pop up this question, and then ladies, I want you to jump back in also and share some of your insight. Kimberly, thank you for joining this morning. I'm 45 and have been caring for my dad for 9 years. Thank you for doing that. Your father is blessed to have you. My biggest struggle has been finding balance and being able to do things with my kids. I have 4 and they are starting to become teenagers. We haven't been on a family vacation since they were toddlers. I have to miss their sporting events quite often because I have no one who will help with dad. The guilt really eats at me, and I feel at times I should be prioritizing them more. Kimberly, it is not easy. I'm going to assume here that you didn't mention any other family in the area. The one thing that I would say, and Kandis, this may be true for you too, and pop in here. If you have other family and you haven't asked for help, you need to do that, because sometimes we're assuming that they just understand we need help. They do not. If you are not the boots on the ground, handling the day-to-day care, handling the money, handling the planning and the insurance and the food and the medications, you don't understand how difficult this is. And so they think, oh, Kimberly's got it. She's got her kids with her. She's got it. Dad's fine. If you have any other siblings or other family, please reach out to them and let them know that you need help in these ways.
Absolutely.
Hop in.
Absolutely. But also, Kimberly, I mean, do you have, respite care is also something that can be available to you. Respite care is something that some people don't always trust, but that it can be very, very beneficial to you, to help you when you have those moments where, hey, I need to leave, or I need to do this, and I really need someone to come and sit with, someone to help me sit with dad, or asking, other people to chip in and to help you. I see Rosetta saying, what if you have other family and that you've asked for help? That happens during the caregiving journey. Sometimes you don't get the help that you need. And that makes the responsibility twice as hard. So my heart goes out to you, because even though sometimes you want the help, sometimes everybody isn't available to help. You have to possibly, I know some other things that helped me during this time was having different people come and maybe sit with your parents, or sit with them while you're busy or while you're going through. So that's where, respite care will help you. I don't know if that's available to you, but that's something you should utilize if you can.
Yeah. And I want to pop back here to that point also. Let's see here. I'm playing around with StreamYard, folks. All right. So all 3 of us are popped up on this one. To that point of the family members, and another thing we can think about, and I didn't do this because I was Superwoman and only I could take care of mom. Okay. At some point, we need to let a little bit of that go. Keep in mind that if your loved one who you're caring for is incapacitated and can't care for themselves, that's one thing. If they're older and you're caregiving and they can still handle some things, sometimes we are our own worst enemies because we don't believe that anybody else could possibly help mom or dad or aunt or uncle the way we do. Remember, they raised us. They raised families. They've had careers. They're strong people. They can handle way more than what we realize. And you can probably hand off the reins a little bit, even if it's a neighbor and you say, hey, listen, I need to run to the grocery store and grab a cup of coffee. Can you just sit here with my loved one? Or better yet, have some, say, listen, I don't have time to go to the grocery store. Are you going into town today? Here's my list. Lean into people and trust that they will be there to help you.
I think Christina, Julia has hi, Christina Keys.
Yeah.
She's a fellow caregiving.com person, and she wrote about No Barriers, about the free retreat.
Yeah. And so right now, No Barriers is offering to give a free 4-day caregiver retreats, all expenses paid, even airfare, so caregivers can have a break. Just go to their website and apply. And, this is where a little bit of that pre-planning comes in to then have somebody who can sit with your loved ones. And the knowledge here. I'm scrolling through. Here we go. Yeah. Remember, respite care doesn't have to be an agency. It can be family, it can be friends, it can be neighbors. As Christine, senior living communities have respite care. And it can be tricky depending on where you live. I happen to live in a semi-rural area where we have limited services. And so you have to think outside of the box. I encourage everybody to not just think, oh, there's a magical agency that will swoop in and help me with everything. This is where we have to think about creating what we call our care circles. And Kandis and Kimberly both know about this, our care circle. And that support also includes the financial side of it. Who do we trust within that care circle? Is it family that we can reach out to and say, all right, I need 3 hours a week to have an in-home care aid, but I can't afford that. Uncles, aunts, brothers, sisters, what can you chip in to all help? Is there some way that people should think about that, Charlene, in terms of sort of consolidating different ways of having resources that would come into play? Because I didn't think about that until I was up to my eyeballs in it. But I think it's valuable.
That's such a great idea, Julia, having a family fund, right? Family healthcare fund. And it doesn't take a lot if you have a lot of family members who are willing to commit a certain amount each month or every 2 weeks, however the frequency is that you want to do. But have that conversation with your family, because I think somebody mentioned in the chat, people don't realize the cost of being a caregiver. And sometimes it's on us to explain it to them, break it down. These are the costs. This is what I paid for, and this is how much it costs now. And now have certain family members either take control over certain expenses or create that family fund. And if we realize that it costs maybe 10,000, 20,000, 30,000, let's start with 10,000. That's the easier number. If we realize it takes 10,000 a year to take care of your family member, guess what? We can divide that cost by the number of people in your family member who are going to contribute, and then identify an easy entry point for everybody, right? Maybe contributing $100 a month, every family member doing that. That will help out, and you'll be able to get additional support. You'll be able to pay for other things so that you don't have to be the only person right there all the time with your family members, right? So develop that family fund, break it up, make it more manageable. Put your finances into bite-sized pieces. Everybody takes a chunk so that we can take care of this massive caregiving expense that we have to take on.
Yeah, good. Excellent point. And I know some of the conversation, and ladies, I love that you're also helping me scroll through our comments. And again, thank you so much for everybody who's joining us this morning. I think these are really important conversations for a number of reasons. On the practical side, getting our money in order, understanding what resources are out there. On the tactical side, knowing who to call, knowing when to start it all. But on the emotional side, sometimes just feeling like you are not in this all alone can be valuable, because when you are in it, you're in your home and you're with your loved one and you don't get out and you just feel so cut off. You are not alone, right? I mean, some of those statistics, I think it's 53 million caregivers in the US, according to AARP. So clearly we are not alone. And that's one of the reasons why I started Keeping It Real Caregiving. That's why Kandis writes about it. That's why Charlene talks about getting our money in order. All of these issues intersect. And I'm sort of going off on a tangent here, but I wanted to really let all of you know, and thank you from the bottom of my heart for joining in, is that one of the reasons that I'm doing this is that I truly want to connect the real voices between all of the policy work that's happening. There's a lot of great work happening in our country right now, but sometimes as it trickles down to the boots on the ground caregivers, you may not know about all of it, or you may not know how to access. And then some of what you're faced with, the policymakers don't know that because they're not actually in it. So I'm trying to build this army of voices so that we can impact change.
And
And
that's
one
why
of
the
your
work on the national level is so key.
yeah, and we have to keep those voices moving and together, and to the point of pulling together family. And a number of you have commented that um, there was one that I saw in here that you said that you've reached out, and here we go, Kimberly. I'm gonna pop this one up. You said, definitely going to look into respite care in my area. My family members will not help out. I've learned that over the years and eventually just stopped asking. I wanted to share that because the link that I put into the chat, a blog that I wrote last year, and I just made up the name Vanishing Sibling Syndrome. I thought, oh, I like that, right? VSS. And one of the things that Kimberly and anybody else in that situation that I would encourage you to do, early on, I did something similar. I thought, oh, this won't be so hard. I'll just reach out to everybody and everybody puts money into a pot and it'll be okay. Well, it didn't go quite as I had planned. Two things happened from that. One, I got angry. But on the positive side, it made me realize, okay, here's what you need to do because you're not going to be able to rely on that. And I didn't have the time or the space to hang on to that anger. I couldn't. I needed to take care of me and I needed to take care of my mother, right? So Kimberly, I would encourage you that if you have reached out and they've said no, the next level of that before completely shutting the door on it, and sometimes you have to keep your own sanity and your own mental stability and emotional stability, is maybe sometimes people think that, well, I can't physically be there to help, so there's no help. Or they think, I don't have the finances, I can't help. But maybe ask them, okay, what ways can you help? Maybe for them, they want hands off. Maybe they just can't physically do the caregiving thing. Well, maybe they could offer a gift card to you so that you could have lunch one day. Or maybe they could say, fine, here's $50 a month so that you can then hire somebody to come in and sit with dad for 2 hours. Think outside of the box. Think of all the different ways that you can navigate this. There are no hard and firm answers for anybody in this. Ladies, agreed?
Absolutely. Absolutely. The support when caregiving is, if you can't get the physical help, is just as equally as important.
Exactly. And I want to share with all of you let me make sure I have this correct. Is this the right one? Nope, not that one, not yet. There we go. I made this little slate and I just wanted to share it because I made it and I thought it was kind of cool. I love what we can do with technology. So, money and support, why it matters. It matters because of all of you who have joined this morning and all of the various comments that we're seeing, right? The intersection of these two is so crucial. And that concept of support is more crucial than you realize, because if you start to burn out, you cannot adequately take care of the person you're caring for. I had an agent years ago who said to me, Julia, you're the goose who lays the golden egg, your own golden egg. If you let yourself burn out, there are no more golden eggs, right? It's the same with our family members. And, we know it's hard, but at some point we have to dig deep and say, I'm going to reach out to somebody, even if it's to have a conversation, even if it's just to vent for a few moments, so that you can sort of release. And Kandis, I know you talk a lot, write and talk a lot in this space for people. What would be an area where people can sort of mentally make that switch just to allow themselves the room to do that. Sometimes we just think we've got to stay at it, but we don't. We have to recharge.
We do, and we have to get past the fear of feeling like I'm a burden. I'm just, dumping my problems onto someone else, and nobody even wants to hear what I have to say because nobody cares. That's not true. I think that that's something that when you're caring for that you deal with, because you can get lost in the everyday hustle and bustle, and to talk to someone else sometimes it can be intimidating. But I do encourage those caregivers out there to, you know, go to support groups, utilize your support groups, talk to, understand that support groups are there for you. Again, community. You need people who are going through what you're dealing with that can help you, that can support you. One thing that also helps is that if you call a friend or if you call someone, ask them, I really need to vent right now. I really need to talk. I need a listening ear. So that way, you know, the person won't feel like you're dumping on them, but they can listen, more intensely. I know that sometimes caregivers, especially family caregivers, if you don't have anything going on outside of just what you're doing, you can feel judged by other people who don't even know or understand what it is that you're dealing with. Sometimes the comments of, oh, well, if it was me, I wouldn't be doing what you're doing. Oh, you a good one. Oh, you a nice person. Oh, I don't even think that you should be doing what you're doing anyway. Those kind of comments can be triggering because sometimes you don't have anyone to go to. Therapy also helps. Therapy is a big one. If you don't have insurance, I know in my case, when I was going through this, I didn't utilize therapy until after, but there are therapists that do that take people on sliding scales. There are people who, depending on the type of insurance you have, can also see you. Um, Taking care of your mental health while caregiving is absolutely, absolutely crucial.
Yeah, and I love that you said, that there are some people who, say, "Oh, I couldn't do what you do." We're always going to get comments that are supportive, and we're always going to get comments that are not so supportive. One of the other strategies that I would recommend, and this is on the caregiving side and the financial side, and I want to jump into that with you, Charlene, is that we do not have the energy. And this is okay. I don't have any official letters after my name. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a counselor. I am not a trained physician of any sort. I am just a caregiver who took care of my mom for 10 years and the last 5 heavy duty lifting as I watched her decline. Right. So I'm going to say that I have the authority to say this. You do not have the energy or the bandwidth to have people in your life who are not positive and supportive and encouraging. If they are energy suckers, energy vampires, you need to let them go because you do not have that energy. If they want to call up and
Absolutely.
talk to you and blah, 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 and just complain, no, you don't have time for that. If anything, they need to call up and go, hey, how are you? Do you need to vent and complain? And they need to just listen because you are the one going through that. All right. I'm going to venture to say that the same is probably true on the financial side, Charlene, that if you've got people in your life who are like, oh, I'm broke all the time. I don't have any money. I've got bills to pay. Okay, we need to surround ourselves with people who are looking forward, who are figuring out how they don't have those conversations anymore because we need to keep our focus on moving forward and building and strength, correct?
Correct. Tara said, let them go. And I completely agree with that. Find some new friends. And those new friends on your financial journey could be a financial coach or advisor who's going to be your cheerleader as you go through this process. Because the last thing you want is for finances to stop you from enjoying those moments with your family members and to break up relationships. You don't want that. So find a financial coach that you trust, who understands your situation, who can help you with the financial part, right? Every time you talk to your financial coach, they should be telling you, hey, I just found out this discount. You can save $100 here. You can save $20 here. You can get $1,000 here. Oh, did you know that if you had to pay out of pocket for funeral expenses, you can take advantage of the FEMA COVID-19 funeral assistance program? Or did you know if you're self-employed and one of your family members was impacted by COVID-19, you can get tax credits, possibly if you're eligible. You can get sick and paid leave tax credits. That's out there. So you want a financial cheerleader who's going to say, I understand your situation and I'm going to work on your behalf to find solutions so that financial issues won't be a problem. You can focus on what matters most, and that's taking care of your family and yourself during this time so you can maximize the moments right now.
Yeah, and the mention about the FEMA and the funeral credit for COVID, I learned about that earlier and also shared that. So I love, Charlene, that our information that we're sharing with people, it really does intersect. When I heard about that, first thing I did was send it out on the Keeping It Real Caregiving newsletter, at Bulletin, because I thought, okay, people need to know about this. And one other thing along those lines, and whether it's in the caregiving space or in the financial space, and I think that's what all of us as advocates and bloggers and, all three of us are putting information out there, is that sometimes you don't have time to sift through everything that's out there. And many of the agencies, especially if they're nonprofits or governmental agencies, they have great programs, but they may not have the bandwidth and the resources to then do a lot of the advertising to put those programs out there. So that's where the three of us come in. We're all individually working in our spaces, digging out information and sharing it with you. So keep that in mind. One of the things I'd like to do now, I see there are a lot of comments coming in. So I just want to scroll through some of these real quick. Acknowledge all of you. And I love that you've joined us this morning. I know it's Sunday morning. It's early. We've got our coffee. So I just let me see where I kind of left off. And I'm going to randomly pop in here. Okay, this will be kind of like a shout out for us. Christina, thank you. So grateful for you three ladies and all you're doing for caregivers. Okay, that was our own pat on the back. Enough of that. But thank you. We appreciate it. And Rosetta, I know we've talked and communicated in the last couple of months. So I'm glad that you're here with us. And, that counselor, it can make a difference. Sometimes just talking. So yes, we encourage that. Again, Adriana, you support that as well. Support groups. Doesn't have to be somebody else doing the support groups. Jenny Marie, I love this. A Friday night Zoom support group. Sometimes just getting together and chatting for a couple of minutes can make a big difference in your mental well-being. Tara, thank you for sharing this. EAP is your employee. What does the A stand for, ladies? I'm drawing a blank.
Assistance program.
Employee assistance programs. Mm-hmm. If you work for an employer, they have these programs, right? It doesn't have to just be something happening at work. So look into that as well. Other comment, Christina, many coaches work on sliding scales. Don't be afraid to ask, right? My approach has always been the worst somebody can tell you is no, right? So ask anything. People say, Julia, how in the world did you go up to that person or call up somebody and ask them? Because the worst they can say to me is no, right? So always remember that. Another, Debbie, Facebook community to support parent caregivers of children, right? And so this is a whole other area that's, my caregiving journey was with a parent. Kandis, yours was with your mother and a parent as well. But we think about caregiving goes in both directions. It could be a spouse, it could be a child, it could be, special needs. So think about ways to just reach out and connect across different platforms. We hear a lot in the last couple of months about, social media being so bad and causing problems. Social media can be used for good. That's what we're doing this morning, right? The power of social media is incredible, right? And in these support groups, you get to be you, right? And so, Jenny Marie, thank you for sharing that. Also, quick question. How do we find a good financial coach? Charlene, do you want to take that one?
That's a great question. It all depends on what you're looking for in a financial coach, because there are organizations out there that have financial coaches. So I would say right now, use Google. It's a good friend. Look at those organizations that have financial coaches, and then look at individuals. If you want a financial coach that's a financial advisor or a certified public accountant, there are different costs based on the level of expertise that that financial coach has. Like every financial coach might not be well versed in taxes, or every financial coach might not understand benefits for elderly caregivers, right? So you want somebody who has specific expertise in the goals that you have. So identify your goals first and then find that match.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent point. I worked with somebody a couple of years ago, and he asked me a lot of those questions. And at tax time, all kinds of different tax deductions that were based on the care that I was giving mom. And a lot of it is how you prepare that, and how it's worded. And that goes back to us as caregivers. Don't think of what we're doing day to day as just work. I would encourage you to almost consider it as a business, right? So when you're running out to the store to grab mom or dad or aunt or uncle products, save those receipts, right? When you are tracking the work that you're doing for them, track your gas receipts, track it as if it was a business. And then when you talk to a financial person, you could say, hey, I have all of this. Does any of this matter? And if it does, you already have your documentation, right? Because you're the CEO of that person. I'm still scrolling through some of the other questions. And yes, Debbie, it's fine that you shared the other Facebook groups. That's what we're all about, is sharing information. Let me pop that one up real quick so others can see it. Yeah, what's the name of that one, Debbie? Put it in there. Put it into the chat of exactly what the name of that group is. So in case people don't have time to copy that link, because each of us has something different that we're looking for, and I will tell you that I also have a Keeping It Real Caregiving Facebook group. It's a private group, and my background is news. I tend to be very straightforward, very fact driven, right? Everybody says, Julia, relax, let people feel their emotions. I'm like, no, but they need to know the information. We're all different, right? So I'll go to some groups and it's very warm and fuzzy, and people are just posting memes saying, oh, let's all give each other a hug and Care Bear. That's great, right? That's needed. I tend to be like, here's an article on how to make sure that you're feeding mom and dad right. Here's an article on making sure you understand dialysis. Here's an article about what's happening at AARP. So we're all different. Find the group that works for you and go across groups, because it depends on where you're at any moment of what it is you're looking for. All right, so we are just about out of time. So real quickly, so Life on the Bright Side is the other Facebook group. I'm going to check that out myself. But before we go, I want to pop up to our stream. Kandis, how do people find you? I'm going to play this. If they want more information, if they want to connect with you directly, talk us through.
So if you would like to contact me, I do have my LinkedIn up. That is the correct spelling of my name. And also caregiving.com is where you can read some of the blog posts that I have made. I've also been across lots of different podcasts where I talk about my caregiving journey. And most recently, the one that I recorded was Black Cancer, where I talked about my caregiving journey, and it's a podcast that goes along with the experience of people of color in their cancer journey. So that's really part of my advocacy work, and you can find me on many blogs: Tina's Wish, Ignite Hope Candles. I was in Cancer Wellness Magazine talking about it, so that's how you can contact me.
Excellent. And same thing, Charlene, how find you for more information on getting all our money straight?
Yes, get all of this money and start saving money. You can find me on Facebook, IG at Charlene Rhinehart. And then you can go to my bulletin, ChicagoSouthsider.bulletin.com. I give out a lot of free information. And then I have a premium subscription with all the hidden money opportunities that I find throughout the month. I also have wealthywomendaily.com. And that's where I share investing tips so that people can turn their paycheck into passive income and not have to worry about money and time while they are doing important things that they want to tackle. So that's wealthywomendaily.com. If you subscribe there, I share all different types of money updates.
Excellent. And I can tell you folks that as a fellow bulletin writer, I subscribe to Charlene's page, and she's got some great information. So definitely check it out. And I'm going to pop up my little slate here as well. You guys can find me at keepingitrealcaregiving.com. Somebody asked, is this a website? And yeah, so I think all of us, as we work across these different platforms, the goal is to just get information out there. So you can find me at keepingitrealcaregiving.com, the website. It's still a work in progress. And then also on Facebook Bulletin at keepingitrealcaregiving.bulletin.com. And so lots of, a lot of us are doing work. Okay, how do I remove that? There we go. Let's see. There we go. That's down. Okay, so I'm going to pop the three of us back up here. It is 9:30, a full hour. That went really fast. So Kandis Draw, Charlene Rhinehart, both ladies from Chicago. What are the chances? Thank you so much for joining us this morning. This has been fun. And for all of you joining us from the world of internet and all over on Facebook, we appreciate you jumping in. We hope that this has been valuable. Be sure to reach out to all of us individually as a group. Follow us for more information. And I'm looking to do more of these, our Sunday coffee chat and support hours as we move forward. So everybody have a wonderful day. Thank you so much. And remember, take care of yourselves, because if we don't do that, we're really no good for anybody else.
Absolutely.
All right,
Thanks, Julia.
Bye.
Bye,
Everyone.